Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Look, we've all been there, right? You offer your standard, perfectly polite greeting, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the person on the other end is just yelling about a return policy, or they're absolutely furious because they've been stuck on hold for an hour. Today, we're tackling a truly high-stakes professional objective: mastering conflict resolution. And specifically, we're zooming in on the very first completely critical domino in that chain: identifying the angry customer. If you deal with people in literally any capacity, you know exactly how fast a normal interaction can go totally sideways. So today we're breaking down a highly targeted framework from our source material. It acts as a real blueprint for navigating these intense, unpredictable moments. So can you spot conflict before it actually erupts? I mean, we've all felt the pain of a super tense interaction. Your heart rate spikes, the communication totally breaks down, and suddenly you're entirely in damage control mode, honestly just trying to survive the conversation. But what if you could see it coming? Spotting an angry customer early isn't just some nice interpersonal skill to have, it's the absolute key to de-escalation. Our source text outlines this incredibly clear 4-part training path designed to equip you with exactly this ability, giving you a distinct tactical advantage right out of the gate.
To get us there, we're going to follow this straightforward 4-part map. First, we'll look at the causes of conflict. Second, identifying situation severity. Third, the rules of engagement. And finally, a crucial self-check. Let's jump right into step 1. Section 1, the causes of conflict. This is all about identifying the root. The source material sets a very clear baseline here. You've got to know what causes conflict in any conversation. And notice that phrasing, any conversation. This isn't just about a specific product breaking or some sudden billing error. The source is highlighting universal, foundational triggers. Just think about the feeling of being ignored, or dealing with totally unmet expectations, or trying to navigate deeply confusing company policies. Think about a customer who's been transferred 3 different times, repeating their account number to 3 different people before finally reaching you. You know, the spark for that conflict was lit long before you even said hello. People fundamentally become combative when they feel disrespected, unheard, or trapped by a process they just don't understand. Recognizing these initial universal causes is step 1. It's the absolute bedrock of the whole process. Because frankly, if you can't understand why the spark was lit, you've got 0 chance of stopping the fire.
Moving on to Section 2, identifying situation severity. This is where we measure the threat. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it frames conflict as something you must actively measure. Think of a gauge moving steadily from a nice, calm blue zone right up into the danger of the red zone. The text explicitly mandates that you have to be able to identify the severity of the situation one is facing with the customer. But okay, how do you actually do that in practice? Well, you've got to become a bit of a detective in the moment. Are they speaking at an unusually fast pace? Is their volume steadily going up? Are they using really definitive, closed-off language like always or never? A low-severity situation, where a customer is just mildly annoyed, might just need some basic active listening and a genuine apology. But if that dial hits the red zone and they're issuing ultimatums or really raising their voice, you need immediate, strategic intervention. You aren't just looking at an angry customer. You are actively calculating the exact level of hostility you're facing in that very second.
Which brings us to Section 3, the rules of engagement, structuring your responses.
Let's move to the next stage and see how this builds across the different levels of an interaction. Conflict, as we all know, is never static. It's a living, breathing, escalating thing. Because of that, the source text directs us to clearly understand the rules of engagement at each stage of the conflict. Your response mechanisms absolutely must adapt. Let's make this concrete. At stage 1, an initial disagreement, your primary rule of engagement might simply be listen without interrupting. You just let them vent and validate their frustration. But as we hit stage 3, peak severity, the rule shifts entirely. The tactic of just letting them vent, yeah, that won't work anymore. Now the rule is set clear professional boundaries and offer immediate finite solutions. The tools you pull out of your toolbox have to precisely match the stage of the escalation. So the crucial point is this: you cannot just wing it. In a panic, human nature totally makes us want to argue back, get super defensive, or honestly, just abruptly end the conversation entirely. Managing a customer interaction successfully means strictly adhering to these predefined rules to override your own natural instincts. It's a highly disciplined, checklist approach. You take the exact severity stage you just identified and you match your predetermined engagement strategy precisely to it. If they're at a level 2, you deploy the level 2 response. No questions asked. This structure completely removes the emotional guesswork from your job.
Finally, we've arrived at Section 4, the crucial self-check, the internal review.
Let's deliberately slow down our pace for a second here, because this might actually be the most powerful and way too often overlooked step of the whole shebang. We are shifting the spotlight right off the customer and directly onto you. In the heat of the moment, you've got to perform an internal review. But how exactly do you do a self-check? You take a breath. This is where you monitor your own physical and emotional reactions. Is your own heart rate starting to spike? Are your shoulders tensing right up? Are you starting to take this total stranger's anger personally? This is all about recognizing your own physiological response to stress. Because if you lose your cool, if you let your own frustration bleed into your tone of voice, the entire framework we just built up completely collapses. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate preventative measure, directly from the source text. Learn to self-check before the situation escalates. It is a strict mandate. This self-check isn't some post-mortem you do in the break room while you're drinking coffee and recovering from a terrible call. No, it's an active circuit breaker you flip before the escalation peaks. By recognizing your own triggers and deliberately calming your nervous system early on in the conversation, you maintain the authority and the clarity you need to guide the customer safely back down to baseline. So, I'm gonna leave you with this. Are you ready to self-check in your next tough conversation? We've traced the entire arc today, from understanding the foundational causes of a customer's frustration to actively measuring the exact severity of the threat, engaging with structured, disciplined rules, and finally, mastering that vital internal self-check. The next time you find yourself facing an angry customer, remember this blueprint. Measure the threat, engage by the rules, and always check your own temperature first. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.